Hey everyone, it's Kenlyn. Welcome back to my channel. And this is the Astro and Energy Report for the week of September 8th through the 15th. Now, September is also a complex month. There's so much going on. I think you're going to hear me say that for every month as we move into the end of the year and the beginning of 2025. Now, first of all, I want to presence. Why do we even care about all of this? I think there's so much instability, change, unknown that we're using astrology to have a glimpse into where to put our energy, where to align our energy. And instead of fighting, because there's a human instinct to double down when something doesn't work. There's this analogy of when you go to unlock the door and it's stuck and you just keep trying to turn the knob and then you bang the thing and the knob doesn't turn. But astrology kind of tells you, the knob's not going to turn. Not until the 20th of September. So let it go. And then we can align ourselves. So as leaders in the new earth, our job is to align ourselves with energy so that we're actually going with the flow. We're going with the Wu Wei, the Tao, the life force energy that's moving us, that's animating us. And, we on Earth are very susceptible to planetary influences. That is something that spiritual teacher Gurdjieff had said in his commentary around astrology and the planets. I mean, astrology is every civilization has for millennia had some kind of look at the stars to internalize, to see what's happening on the inside. Now, they didn't psychologize, that's the word. They didn't psychologize like we do because their consciousness was in a different place, but understanding the outside and the inside and the movement of energies is what astrology is really all about. So we're presencing that because we get behind as leaders, priestesses of a new earth. What are the energies that we want to flow with? So we've come out of a lot of squares, a lot of oppositions. The planets are breaking up and they're also going retrograde. And so the sun right now is in Virgo, and then I'll name where the other planets are and if they're retrograde or direct. But it gives us an opportunity in this kind of Virgo mansion to get very specific about our work. What are we here to do? What is not working? Where are we spending our time and energy? It's like cleaning out your closet. You kind of have to make a bunch of decisions like, do I keep this sweater or not? And you might literally be doing that because there is this sense of cleaning out, purifying, purging. I'm feeling it really deeply myself. It's not showing up for me in my closet, but it could be for you. It's showing up in the systems and structures, which is very Virgo, of my business. What gets to stay? What has to go after having had them for a couple of years? What's draining my energy? What's pulling me toward the things that are not mine to do? It's intense because I think Virgo also puts us in the weeds. It puts us in the details. And each of us has a different coping mechanism for being in the details. Some of us love it and we can lose the forest for the trees, and others avoid it like the plague. So whichever axes you fit, you're going to have to work that yoga and let go of some of that OCD and myopia. And on the other hand, you're going to have to deal with some stuff because this energy is all about dealing with the details. It's also about a lot of self-care and nurturance because Virgo is the healer energy, the medicine woman energy. It's like Cancer. It comes with a lot of self-care. So perhaps we've seen where things like I was saying about my systems and structures have blown me out. So they get to be recreated because I'm not having it, So that's the sovereign queen, right? I'm not having it. So how do then I restructure? And here we have happening, all that redo, restructure, reinvent, re-engage, reimagine. These are terms we use inside of retrogrades. So the planets in retrograde, I made a little list for us, is just so I don't forget. We have Saturn, we have Neptune, we have Pluto, and we have Uranus, and we have Chiron. Chiron's not a planet, an asteroid, but it's still an energy that deals with our healing. And if you're around the age of 50, you're in your Chiron return. And when it goes retrograde, I had this happen when I turned 50, it like hangs out like Chiron on my Chiron. It like hung out for a while. So it's like, did you get the healing? For me, it was unearthing deep mother wound. And we'll save that for another day. But that is a really great video I get to do about the Chiron return. It's really the most pivotal time in my life outside of those Saturn returns. And you may not know, but you have a Jupiter return in your life, and that's exciting. You have a Venus return in your life. It's where that planet circles around to that exact spot in your natal chart, the way that the cosmos looked when you were born. So again, the cosmos, and ancients have known this, gives us a sense of our blueprint. And we don't have to be enslaved to our blueprint. But when we know how the operating system was constructed, we can work with it, and we can work on that, breaking the pattern of what it means to be you. You know, I think that was the Joe Dispenza book, Breaking the Pattern of Being Yourself. We really can't do that unless we know what our self is. That's self-awareness. You know, Brene Brown had said on a live event that she was the writer of Daring Greatly and Dare to Lead, all kinds, Into the Wilderness, all kinds of epic books about who we be and how do we get along. You know, she said the leader of the future today, this future today, is one who is self-aware. To me, astrology and other systems that are based on your birth time help you see, they give you power into seeing yourself, into seeing how you're made. Because if you don't know, then you A, think everyone's like that, or B, you think you're super special, and then you have an isolating story, or C, your lack of awareness has you act in ways that you're unconscious about. And what she was saying is that leadership, even of top companies, let's even say of countries, is no longer tolerating this toxic old paradigm, top-down leadership. So people have to be self-aware, not only of their emotions, but what their particular unique triggers are, what their particular unique gifts are. And that's what astrology can support with. Ultimately, no one can tell you who you are. These are all pointers. And you have to, you know, it's like what Kierkegaard said, is that you ride the horse to the temple doors. That's the astrology, is the horse. And then at some point, I get chills saying this, you've got to get off the horse and walk through the door yourself. And I love that. So we're not excluding anything. You know, Juanita Roberson in the Many Mothers course that she led for the Evolving Sisters Network said that our goal is to include as many truths as possible. So we just expand to include as many truths as possible. And that gets to blow our minds. And I'm going to talk about 5 things that of the astrology and the energy right now. And I'm going to leave with that last one about opening up our minds and receiving new information. I'm not going to do a full-blown report on that. We're going to go into a new video at another time. But let's seed the energies that are happening today that we're going to walk into over the next 7 days, over the next 2 weeks, over the next 4 months, over the next 2 years. Like these are big energies. Okay. So first, let's say that we're in a lot of retrograde territory, Virgo energy. We're looking at what isn't working. So that's number one, retrogrades, Virgo energy, stronger boundaries, better self-management, better management of your business, your work, your life. You can see kind of what has had you like the tail wagging the dog and where you'd like to take your power back. Your question is, do I really need this? Is it something I really want? Is it something I really need? And chances are you've sat with that question. I know I have in the area of technology because there's super tons of bright, shiny objects. And everyone promises that it's going to solve all your problems. And sometimes they double your problems. And I'm getting wiser as I get more experienced and I see the nuances of what's not being said in the marketing, as well as what is being said. So that's a big question for Virgo. Do I really want and need this? Is it really going to serve me? Is it really going to make my life better? You're also going to receive some intuitive guidance during this time because remember, we're on that axis with Pisces and we're going to go into that next. So number 2 is we're in pre-eclipse mode. The eclipse actually happens on the 17th of September at 7:34 Pacific time. So 18th if you're ahead of Pacific time. And that energy initiates an eclipse. So what is being eclipsed? You think about the light of the sun shining the light on the moon because they're opposite. So we now are in an axis of Virgo Pisces. The sun is shining the light on the moon. The moon is in Pisces. And then the earth comes in between and cuts off that light. It's like a reboot of your computer. This is only a partial. I don't want to say only because it's also a super moon. So big energy. And what is this energy about? And I think you've heard me say many, many times, it's about completion. It's about endings. We are not fully in a new beginning energy. And there are cycles to life, right? Like the full moon and every month is about releasing and letting go. It is about completion. It is about endings. But these kinds of endings that we're talking about with eclipses are karmic endings. They're fated endings. They could open a new door by closing a prior door. So if you notice what's happening in your life right now, that's giving you kind of a view, like behind the curtain, a view of what's going to get eclipsed and where you will naturally find yourself on another solid ground. I don't even know if it's solid, on another ground somewhere else, because we're talking about Pisces. So we are talking about the mystical and not so much solid. So earth and water opposing each other, like here and now, present moment, grounded in this truth, and water, our unconscious, our subconscious, the dream world, the mystical world. So we're here to live both as the codes of heaven on earth. So we're in pre-eclipse this week, and I'll be launching a new program called PURIFY. It's going to be a 21-day purification. I'm just deeply feeling it myself. And so I'll leave the link and invite you into that. Now, the third thing we have going on is Mars moved into Cancer a few days ago. And this is a bizarre moment of having Mars in Cancer because Mars is about 7 weeks in Mars's visit of different signs. But for reasons of the cosmos, Mars is going to stay in Cancer and dip into Leo and then go back into Cancer because Mars is going through a big retrograde. And that movement, mostly in Cancer, is going to be around 8 months. That is a long time. And so we really won't complete that cycle with Mars until Mars moves into Leo for good and goes direct until April of 2025. So there's some very deep work that gets to be done because Mars is going to bring up action. So Mars has, like every planet has the upside and the downside, the light and the shadow. And the upside is action. The upside's getting shit done. It's momentum, it's movement. The downside is aggression, being angry. It could be warlike. And in Cancer, which is, the sun sign of the United States is Cancer, July 4th. So in Cancer, they're opposing energies, but there's some highlights to that. It can go either way. It depends. Again, this is where we put on our evolutionary feminine leader hat and we say, how can I get behind this energy and work with the anger that's coming up, work with the aggression that's coming up? And it's going to fall into probably a particular house. I use whole house astrology, so it falls into a house. And then when it goes into Leo, it goes into another house. And so Mars in Cancer could bring up a lot of inner child issues. And I'm going to talk about that more in a separate video because I think that's a big, big theme. I also think mother wounding is a big theme and they deserve their own videos. Now, the fourth thing that's actually really beautiful energy. Are you ready for some good news and some support? Venus is trining Jupiter. And that's where relationships actually get a break. It's a harmonious geometry, a trine. It's very supportive and benefic. And Jupiter, the great expander, Venus, relationships, love, and money, finances, materiality. So whatever you've been working on could this week experience some kind of win, some kind of recognition. Yes. I want to put that out there because I know that with all the Virgo energy, we have been working pretty hard, pretty in the trenches. And sometimes, it doesn't look like anything is happening. And with all the retrogrades, it could be like we're chasing our tails. And now we're going to see some relief in some way. And I always feel like this kind of energy is based on what you've sown, that adage of what you sow, you shall reap. So there are mystical transits that have nothing to do with what you sow. They're just grace. But so much of how we are on the earth plane works that what you sow is what you reap. Like think of a garden. You have to plant the seed and then you have to water it. Then you have to tend to it. And then you reap the harvest of it. Something happens in the imaginal realm, like that seed opens and it sprouts, and you didn't do anything to make that happen, but you did do the other things to make that happen. So that's our co-creation with the universe. And I think these trines, like Venus trining Jupiter, is going to bring the abundance of what you have been sowing. So if you've been going to therapy with your partner because there's a shit ton of breakdown that we've experienced in relationships, you might feel some benefit there. We also have your abundance, like how you've been working on your business or working for your job. Those seeds will come to some kind of fruition. So get yourself on the side of receiving. Now, the second to last thing, we've got two other things and they're not long, is that we have a minor grand trine coming up. And the reason why it's not going to be long is because I'm going to make another video on that. This is really incredibly beautiful. It also closes out an epoch, like an entire period of the world. And you can see in your chart of your life. I've been reflecting on that with my particular chart and just pulled through the themes of where these three planets, all in retrograde, all within 1 degree or 2 of each other, where they have played their role in my life and how I have grown. I'm going to do a whole separate video because it's so important. And it's one of the highlights that we're working with over the next couple months. We got to amplify the good while we're in this kind of breakdown. And the last thing I'm going to say is that we have the equinox coming and the sun is going to move into Libra. So, right now we have the direct planets. We have the sun is in Virgo, Jupiter is direct in Gemini, Venus is direct in Libra, Mars direct in Cancer, and Mercury direct in Virgo. So you can see, remember we were talking about at the April eclipse how everything was so tightly clustered, so much Aries energy. Then we had so much Taurus energy. Then we had so much Gemini energy. And then the planets started to break. And so they're affecting different places and they're communicating to each other, which is how we have crosses and oppositions. So it makes it less concentrated, more dynamic across your whole life. So the final place we get to talk about is the equinox coming. That's that point of equal light, equal dark. And in that video, I'm going to be talking about that in another video about the wheel of the year. And some people have asked about that. Some people don't know that the equinoxes are about light, just like the solstices are. And I really want to flesh that out. So I don't want any confusion with astrology, but they are pivotal points in the cyclical year as we are earthlings who respond to light. We're going to get that more and more as we evolve. And as the North Node goes into Pisces, we're going to receive the understanding of light in a whole new way. In the health world, the understanding of how light affects the circadian rhythm, which affects your mood, your sleep, all the production of melatonin, serotonin, dopamine. We're just understanding the tip of the iceberg around light. So I think we're going to go into a greater understanding of light. So we should know, it's beautiful to know how the whole earth is set up around light and dark. And that informs our outer and inner. It informs our sense of duality and just what it means to be on the planet. And I'll, end with that with Gurdjieff. What he was saying is that we on Earth are very informed by the energetics of the other planets. There are other planets that are not so, astrology doesn't exist on those planets or those dimensional spaces or galaxies because they're not so affected. And I think that's a very fascinating thing to contemplate, that we are not just these travelers alone. We are traveling with the energetics of the planet, the cosmos, and our own personal birth charts. So that's all for this week. It's a lot going on. I hope this supports you, and I'll see you on the next video.